How's it going, George?
Hello, Joe. I'm doing great. Thanks. What about you?
Doing good, doing good. I just yeah, before we recorded, I was just spending my time reading, and that's about it. So, but
What are you reading nowadays?
I just data modeling books. It's about it. So spare you the boring details. I was actually rereading there was a chapter in there's a book called 50 Years of Relational Databases by Chris Date and Hugh Darwin that I think is really good. But I was looking at one of their last chapters is on no to SQL and no to NoSQL. So I thought that was really interesting to get reread that and get a take on
That's
that whole
great. Yeah,
thing. So
summer is coming, so I'm open to recommendations.
I don't think this is a good summer book. I don't think this is it's a book you. It's pretty. It's not light summer reading unless you like to torture yourself. But anyway, cool. But enough about me. Yeah. So thanks for being on the podcast. For people who don't know who you are, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So my name is George Park. I'm based in Prague, Czech Republic, which is in the middle of Europe, working on data-related projects, mostly surprisingly.
Yeah.
So involved usually in data engineering, data modeling, architecture, and the whole implementation stack. And I'm happy to be here. Currently, it's actually evening here.
Yep.
You have morning in your on
We,
your
we don't we
side,
don't
yeah?
actually we don't actually do mornings here. No, at all. So it's
Yeah,
strange how that works. Yeah, and you're in Prague, and I guess maybe we'll jump into that first.
yeah.
I think that there's. I mean, I've been doing some travel to Western Europe, Western Europe. My directions are all messed up. Um, but I hear that there's a lot going on in Prague, Czech Republic, and surrounding countries. Like, what do you see as are there any differences that you see between where you are and the rest of Europe or maybe the US?
Definitely. From the way of implementation of things, I think that the mindset can be slightly different. But we do have many US companies here. I guess they find out that there are good technicians here, and
Hmm.
that it's good for the IT services. So I think that's quite interesting. About the I would say people differences, like the way the projects are yeah, taken on. I think it's interesting to see that the approaches can differ, and you see. I would say. Maybe I think that there are mainly two streams, but that's maybe some my of a subjective view,
Right.
where on one side you have projects where people just go head on and try to implement things as soon as possible. Then you are missing things like documentation and stuff. And then you have the other approach where you try to be really diligent, yeah, and maybe take slow start, but get prepare things, prepare project, and then in the end, I think you will catch up, because you, I think, make less mistakes. Even though
Mm.
both approaches are, let's say, agile, then still it's completely different. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's
In
interesting.
Prague,
Yeah.
yeah, Joe.
No, what were you saying?
So in Prague, I think it was great before COVID. You could have many conferences here. Then it kind of get down, and I think now it's coming back in. So yeah, lots of IT conferences here as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Thanks.
I hear a
Mhm.
lot of good things about Prague. I mean, obviously we got some mutual friends there, and it's been on my radar for a while. Yeah, it is interesting though, because I feel like when I go to Europe, and I talk to people about their IT projects they're undergoing, and again, these are um, you know typically at larger, older companies. Maybe that's part of the thing we can dive into, but I feel like it's things just move a lot slower, uh, but in a more methodical way. It's not like they move slow because they like to. Well, I think they may actually like to move slow. I mean, I'll retract that, but it definitely feels like it's a different way of approaching solving problems versus in the US where we just tend to move extremely quickly, sometimes at the expense of rigor, right, and doing things in quote the right way. So I don't know if do you see this also in Europe in your consulting experience?
Yeah, I think I see what you mean, and also it's interesting when then U.S. companies coming here creating some IT centers, and then you have this different people put into the project, and then you see how it evolves, and you try to make the best from all the words. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of interesting, yeah, challenging, but great, I think, in the end.
Uh-huh. I
Yeah.
mean, but how did you get into the tech space though, right? Because I mean, it's not like you're next to a giant hub like San Francisco or something like that. Like, what got you interested in in this whole racket? So,
Yeah, I think Prague and the world, like Central and Eastern Europe, is getting recognized, and it's on the map now. Yeah, it's not like San Francisco, I suppose, but I think there are also quite many startups nowadays, and
mhm.
involved with really cool things. And I guess then it's always about to also go to San Francisco and get recognized there as well. But
Mhm.
yeah, that I think even though still many companies are keeping the development center here, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's quite cool.
There's a lot of good engineers though in Eastern Europe that I've found. I found like some of the best engineers I've ever seen or worked with is from that area. I don't know what's in the water. I mean, part of it. I mean, from what I hear, part of it was like maybe the back in the Soviet times, the educational system was it was good. It was good. So for math at least. I don't know about anything else, but I know everyone raves about how great the mathematics were back then. So
I
congratulations on
think
that.
I think we are known for technical background, so I
Yeah.
think that's great here. But I think I would like to highlight one thing which I see, and that's the marketing. So I think that's
Mm,
something what we need to work on here to be able to sell ourselves better. Yeah, to really. As you said, like there are great people here, and maybe not always uh, seen because we still don't have that mentality to really sell ourselves. Yeah,
mm.
so I think it's improving, but uh, yeah,
What do you think
I
that
think I
is?
see the difference.
Is that a cultural
Hmm?
thing, or what do you think? What do you think that is?
Well, so subjectively speaking, I think it's partially culture, partially education. As you mentioned, the education is quite different, very different from US. I think so. That's also part of it. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah, I know. In America, it's interesting. I think that obviously it's a bit self-selecting, right? But I don't feel like a lot of the academic rigor is pushed nearly as hard on kids, and like we get a lot of time off from school here. At least my kids do, and so but I compare it to other countries, and it's um, I think on one hand it's refreshing to see that the kids here aren't pushed hard. On the other hand, I think it's very concerning that the kids have a lot of leeway, and so. But I know in other countries, like I was talking to a friend of mine from China, and she was telling me that kids go to school from like 7:30 a.m. to like 10 p.m. at night, um, and then
Wow.
I think like 7 days a week or something like that, or 6 days or something crazy. But it's like
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
no summer breaks, nothing, and so that's one version of how you could how kids could learn and stuff. But like I said, it definitely feels like in Eastern Europe, everyone I've worked with there just seems to be like definitely have a different caliber of an engineer. And so I don't know if it's, do you guys all like push each other, or is it just kind of the
Yeah, I
opposite?
think now that you mention it, that's some I guess message which I would like to say. And when you mentioned to push each other, I think in early stages of your career, it's really important to kind of find your mentor. Yeah,
Mm.
it doesn't need to be some official trainer per se. It can be some colleague, some friend, so someone who you look up to, and you can push each other, challenge yourself, learn new things. I think that's quite important in this field to always have some uh, role models
Oh,
from
it's
the
extremely
technical
important.
perspective. Yeah,
Yeah, it's extremely important because things move super fast. And I think one of the big dangers is you'll get, um, it's kind of like in sports in some ways. Like you need somebody to chase, right, or somebody to chase you, and who's kind of at your level, maybe slightly above, where you can, I think get pushed. So yeah, but in a positive way, obviously, it's not like you're. I don't see this as being like super competitive or anything like that. But I think everyone's kind of innately wants to better themselves. Maybe it's a form of self competition. But again, things move super fast, and you got to figure out like who's worth paying attention to and work with mentoring. So it's
Yeah. I think in your 5 minute episodes, you mentioned learning, and also I like the episodes about meetings. Yeah, so that was quite interesting and inspirational for me because
oh
that's yeah. It's I think about. Maybe it has to the dimensions to it. One is to really stay open to new things, or listen these, or of course some other podcasts to learn new things, get some inspiration, and to stay on the top of the game. So that's quite important. And the prioritization of time you mentioned, I think that's the important of it all, because one thing is to kind of work hard, earn money, and second thing is to really do what is important both in your professional and personal life. Yeah.
yeah, it's hugely important, and I think it's an underrated thing because I think everyone like kind of over indexes on making more money, but um, I don't know. I mean, I think at a certain point, you either got to determine like what's enough money for you, and then you got to figure out what's enough time for you to really focus on the things that need to push you further. Yeah, that episode that I put for the 5 Minute Friday with the no meetings was, I think, personally largely in reaction to just a lot of people calling me and asking for my time. Like, hey, what do you think of this idea? What do you think of this product? And I think I was overly generous with my time, and I just, among a lot of other things, right? Just people, want to have you speak at different events and just want advice and stuff. But I was like, if I just make blog posts or content about that, that will satisfy a lot of the questions. And in a lot of cases too, like you're pointing out, it's like it's a total balance, right? Personal, business, and stuff. And so it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a good move to do that though, for sure. So
Definitely. I support you there. I think it's also kind of relevant to uh, maybe one day you kind of realize, am I in some golden cage, or
yeah.
am I heading where I originally wanted? Maybe
Mm.
do some recap and think for yourself, okay, is this what I want to do? No, it goes back a little bit to learning new things, to keep open mind, and to still ask yourself, okay, is this interesting? Is this where maybe I should go
Yeah.
next? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. What are some of the things that you're stoked on right now? I guess career wise.
I think in my spare time, definitely I'm thinking about automation, about what it can do for companies, especially in when it's related to data and analytics, and also company culture, because when you do the projects, when you do implementations of new tools and all the cool stuff that is there now, you also need to think about, okay, like, am I buying great car, and who is gonna drive it? Yeah, so it goes back to talent, and if people are trained well, if it's, yeah, it shouldn't be just do the project, run away, and then not to think about the future, I would say. So it should always go back to the culture. That's to make sure that people get used to the new things, and the implementation is done successfully. So yeah, that's quite important. And I think from point of automation, when you I think people want to automate data pipelines and things like that,
Mm,
but I think nowadays the next step is, okay, how do we automate deployment, how do we automate development, data modeling. You can increase some level of automation to it, especially with data vault. I think that's quite great. Many It has many options to do this, and yeah, so that's, I think, quite interesting and relevant topic nowadays. It's
yeah.
not AI, but it's great. Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, maybe walk us through, us being in the audience of like how, if you're interested in getting started with automation, like what's a
Hmm.
good mental model to think about ways to get started? Like what are some prerequisites that I need before I think about automation?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the, of course, you should start with analyzing what you have, to see, okay, where does it fit? Am I on cloud yet, or where am I? And then I guess next step would be, what are the current painful points, and what can be automated, what. Uh, what can be automated first. I think from point of think big, start small approach. So let's just do a few simple things. Uh, let's see how it goes, and then you can move on
Mm,
to the more complex things. I guess at the beginning. Biggest question is, am I gonna do it myself, or am I gonna get some tooling? That's, I guess, important question at the beginning. Or you can just, yeah, start with what you have, and if you realize it's not scalable, it's not enough, think about what's out there on
yeah.
the market.
What are some of the, I guess, the early areas of automation that you've seen people have most success with?
uh, Yeah, so I think from methodology perspective, I think high success rate is data vault. I
Mm,
think it's something that's, I think, still quite new from point of implementation. So it's known methodology for many years, I would say, but it's still getting adopted. People are still exploring it in on the enterprise level. So I think that's something that's getting known and recognized heavily. And then definitely it's about automating the process of data modeling. So I think that's still not standard in the enterprises yet.
Yeah, it seems, especially data modeling, that seems like it would lend itself well to certain aspects of automation, but I think the higher level modeling of maybe understanding the business processes, the concepts, and the rules, like do you find like that's something that lends itself to automation as easily, or do you find that that's a lot more like person to person right
Yeah,
now?
yeah. So I think if we go back a bit to the US approach, question is if on the project they even consider data modeling. I hope they do, but sometimes maybe it's not the case.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that should be recognized as a standard. Yeah, to say okay, if I'm gonna build a house, first I want to have the plan. First I want to have the model, and then yeah, you save material, you save uh, time, people's effort. I think in long run. And from what you mentioned, from how to automate these things. Uh, I think you need to map your thought process. Yeah. So okay, if I do it manually, what are these steps? First, I have some source. I have some tables, some data there. What am I gonna do with it? Yeah. So if I'm gonna do it manually, first I want to discover the data. Maybe do some data profiling. I want to talk to some SMEs to actually understand the data, how it behaves. That's of course very important, and then you model it. If you use data vault methodology or some hubs, links, satellites,
Yeah.
or more advanced concepts, and from that perspective, you then decide, okay, maybe I can automate profiling. Yeah, that's
Mm.
that's first step. You some data discovery at the beginning. I think that's something that can be automized. About understanding of data, that of course it's hard to automate. I think we are not there yet, but who knows in a few years. Uh, um, but so I think you can then actually reduce your time effort on this data delivery. So you are delivering data to the consumers, and maybe it's not gonna take you a few days, but a few hours or a few minutes,
Mm.
if the automation is really implemented well. So that's I think something that can be done and can reduce your effort. So then one data engineer can deliver more in the same time, and I think that's great.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, what are the differences you see between automating maybe a brand new project versus automating um, an existing system and an existing architecture?
Right. I think it's about scale. So it's about scope. I would say. So I guess you have to think about your return on the investment, right? So am I gonna bring few tables to the existing project? So uh, is it worth it to spend months of development on automation for this? Or is it going to be then reused for another next 5, 10 years, and
Mm.
then ultimately is definitely worth it? So yeah, if it's new project, I think automation is the key. I think always, because on the new project the budget is usually mostly tracked very well, and you
Right.
need to get from the new project the most of it for the given budget. So I think that's something that where you can kind of sell automation to the stakeholders well,
Mm.
because of course uh, budget is not unlimited, and everybody wants their data.
Right. But when you're selling these automation initiatives, though, do you ever run into pushback from uh, the existing teams who might not want things to be automated because that's their job.
Yeah, I think yeah, if especially if it's some existing project, that can be the case, and it's not just with the automation, right? You can
Mm,
just say, let's bring different tool, different
yeah,
database, and people are like, well, we are used to this, it works well, we don't like changes, and then you need to uh, convince people that this is actually great, it's beneficial, it's not just change for change, but it's actually useful, it's gonna save their time, it's gonna improve lives, and that
right.
it's useful, it's gonna save money, and yeah.
Yeah, but I imagine those discussions are they might be a bit more challenging than just saying, "Hey, it's gonna make your life better" and stuff, right? I mean, so I mean, walk me through that. If you meet a team and some stakeholders, like um, how do you get around? I guess the kind of stubborn nature of most people. I suppose you and I would be the same if we're on a team. We're like, it
Yes,
works just
yes,
fine. What are you talking about?
yes.
So,
Yeah, I think every time I hear somebody say, I do this 20 years, it works great, and then that's where discussion just starts. But yeah, so I think when you hear this, then you always have to think. It's not about doing things the same way for several years. It's about trying new ways, more efficient. Always think about where it can be improved next. And when you start project and try to push the changes, the automation things, I think it's journey. Yeah, so
mm,
it's about company culture. Yeah, some cultures are very advanced. They work with data. Everybody works with data, and it's awesome. Some of the companies are just getting there. It's some process to increase the maturity in that area, to upskill people, to help them to really develop templates and steps that can be easily followed, and yeah, start with some simple things and then getting to some more complex advanced things, and then see how people suddenly slowly are changing, and it's
yeah.
getting better and better.
I've always found it
Yeah.
takes it's a time it's a time I think the way I've always found that you do this successfully is you just got to have time on your side. Like if you try and rush things because maybe you have a salesperson who needs to hit their quota and they're like trying to cram this down a team's throat and stuff, and it's like I've rarely seen that really work in the long run because at the end of the day you have to show, I guess, to use a cliche, the art of the possible, but then really these teams have to make up their own minds and what they want to do and make it in, so what I've always found is good is like I'm just going to show you what's possible. I'm going to let you come up with the idea that this is your idea,
Hmm.
because if you
Hmm.
can do
Hmm.
that then the person owns the idea and they own the process of change, and if you can't get that, then it's really hard because it isn't, they're not bought into it, right? And it's a simple rule of psychology. You always want to, bring the other person on and have them feel like they own the
Yeah.
process, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hard.
I think you're right, and it's quite important topic what you just mentioned, and well, where to start? I think you mentioned to kind of talk about the process, and to make sure there is the buy-in, and I think it's good to start with some success stories, and to do some early wins, yeah, to make sure to prove slowly, okay, this works, see, that's what I did in, I don't know, few sprints, maybe before it was not possible. So to be also working on enabling things to remove the roadblocks and uh, yeah. Uh, to kind of slowly change the culture, but of course that's other thing. I think at the beginning of a career in the data industry, I was thinking, okay, I need to learn this programming language. I need to
Yeah,
learn about this tool. You are thinking about the technical things, and then you, I think, as you get more experience on the projects, then you learn that that's one thing, and then second thing is really the communication to raise awareness of things and as you mentioned previously, everybody has their own work in the company, right? They salespeople are looking for the sales, marketing for marketing, and what you are doing is to help them, but maybe for them it's not the priority, right? So you need to make
that's the
sure
hard
that
part.
to explain that okay, this is beneficial for you. It's gonna help you. You will get your data not once a day, but every 5 minutes, up to date.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah, and automated too, right? You don't need to have people pushing buttons, but it's always the hard part though, convincing the person who's pushing the button, doing the manual process that this automation is going to be good for them. Because the day that they walk into the office and the automation's happening, hopefully they have other things to do, because if that, if they have a bad experience, and that also means like any other automation efforts are going to be,
Mm.
maybe compromised a bit, right? Because that person's going to say, well, yeah, I mean, that thing took my job. And then everyone's going to say, well, yeah, I mean, this automation's terrible. Let's not do this, right? So, it
Mm.
definitely, I think you need to provide like that safety net for people to know that, if this process is automated, we got your back, we being the company have your back, and you'll be, working on hopefully more value add things and just pushing a button. But
Mm.
as you
Mm.
point out, a lot of that is cultural too, though, right? It's like the pushing the button. If that's been your job for a long, long time, that becomes your identity, right? So, and
Yeah.
that's a big thing to tear
I
away
think
from
on
somebody.
I think on one of your episodes there was mentioned one interesting sentence about following the money. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
companies always have some budget and then priorities. Yeah, so each department has their own priorities, of course, and everybody wants their data. And I think the automation is really enabling to increase. This chance that everybody will get what they want because then these people, as you mentioned, like pushing the button, then they can be used for better things to increase the delivery to really make sure that the the process is simplified and it really doesn't take a few months to add a few columns to the table, but it takes few minutes. Yeah. So yeah, I'm talking extremes here, but I saw it. Yeah.
Oh, you are talking extremes. I mean, there's companies in my city that I've seen that it still takes 6 months to add a column to a database. And, I'd like to think that these engineering teams are pretty sophisticated. These companies aren't, hemorrhaging cash. They're making a lot of money, but they also move that slowly on things that you would think shouldn't take that long. So, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
because I think in this case, these systems have
Mm.
so many. It's more if you wanted to change a column. Adding a column is sort of a neutral thing. It's like I add a column. If anything doesn't read from it, it doesn't matter, right? Or doesn't write to it, it doesn't matter. But it's like if you're going to change a column, for example, like that's a process because you have thousands of other processes that depend on this, and that's the result of years and decades of just piling stuff onto stuff. So I mean, now you got to figure this out because if you
Mm.
change something, it's like
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather be on a bomb squad with like the police or the military than like unravel that stuff because like at least I'm only dealing with a few wires and not like thousands of things that could go wrong. So it's
Yeah, and then you find out that column, each department is using the different logic and different data types, and
Hmm.
everything needs to be kept as it was. And
Yeah. And this is the stuff
uh,
though, right?
yeah.
This is the stuff that you see, and and again, I think there's a big difference between like I think a lot of the vendors they want to they showcase the big Fortune 10 companies, which is usually just a small department in a Fortune whatever company that I think
Mm.
had a lot more leeway in this. But you dig into a lot of these like giant systems and these giant corporations, and it's like I don't know that anyone really understands them. Maybe they do, but these things are just humongous. And then especially more mature companies, especially the kinds you might find in Europe, for example. It's like some of them I imagine are neat and tidy. Some of them I might
Mm.
also imagine are very much the opposite of that. So try
Yeah.
to shoehorn automation processes into this stuff, and it's like I don't know, might be easy, might be hard. So
Yeah, I think before the automation, people need to ask themselves like how to first simplify it. Yeah,
mm,
because you don't want to automate that old crazy process that's been there last 10 years. But first try to simplify it, and then automate, and yeah, keep things optimized. I think that's quite important. And yeah, some companies tend to be more regulated. Yeah, maybe it's by the law. Sometimes it's just a really huge enterprise, and yeah, to apply the changes can be challenging. So it's interesting to see that if you want to implement the same thing for different companies, it takes different time. Yeah, because
yeah.
it's not just about the technical implementation, but you need all the analysis and approvals, and then it takes different time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I think especially in Europe, it's different than America. I mean, we definitely have regulated industries, and we do have laws. I think contrary to some beliefs. So, but in Europe, it feels like everything's a lot more regulated, and I think I don't know if it's European culture, but I've noticed people tend to be a lot more. They like to follow the rules. Um,
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
America was very much founded on the belief that we can make our own rules here. So, but uh, but I know this is in Germany, for example, right? Like
Hmm.
I'm on an empty street, and that's just an anecdote. It has nothing to do with IT, but it's like no cars, crosswalk,
Hmm.
right? The do not walk signs up, and nobody jaywalks. Crosses the street without the light going off and telling you can walk. And it's like this is really interesting. In America, we would just say, yeah, we'll just go jaywalk. Doesn't matter in other countries too. But I thought that was an interesting cultural thing for sure. It's
Yeah,
like,
I think yeah, I think the analytical platforms and data and stuff. You think, okay, this is technical things, but it is affected by culture. And as you mentioned
oh yeah,
in Europe, in companies, I think especially industries like banking, for example, highly regulated. So then the implementation is really different. Yeah.
hmm yeah. And you mentioned Data Vault earlier. I mean, maybe we can dive into that a bit more. I mean, Data Vault.
Mm.
It's. I always jokingly say it's like I don't know if you remember David Hasselhoff, but he was like American, but it was really popular in Germany as a celebrity. But
Mhm.
I feel like that's Data Vault, and again, a fan of Data Vault, but it doesn't, as far as I can tell, like I don't see that many people doing it in the States, but in Europe, that's a much different story. I see a lot of people, talking about it or doing it over there. What do you
Yeah,
think it
yeah.
is?
Well, I can't really say about US because I think
Yeah.
not sure how it's popular there, to be honest.
Mm.
But I think in Europe it's quite popular. I can see in many countries the ongoing implementations, and popularity is definitely stable or increasing, perhaps. It's I think there are also other less known methodologies, but advantage of data vault is that there are already experts on the market. Yeah, it's not something totally new, unknown. And it's quite modern, adapted to the new ways of working. It's agile. You can work iteratively. So I think that's really useful and great from my perspective, from my experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned some lesser known methodologies. What might those be?
I think did you hear about the
Yeah,
anchor
anchor modeling.
methodology? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think Lars came up with that.
Yeah. It was quite interesting. I liked it, but yeah, then when it goes to implementation, you always have to consider and not just about the modeling methodology, but overall how to get the talents. Yeah, how to get skilled people. So
Yeah.
you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to do the mistakes that were done before you. So yeah.
Right. Well, especially with newer data modeling techniques, I definitely applaud people like Lars for I think pushing the field forward with new ideas.
Mm.
At the same time, I find it's interesting. I mean, I just posted this on LinkedIn right before we started recording, but it's
Mhm.
it's about relational modeling and and the author of that book I was reading, he said, learn relational model first, then SQL. Doing the other way is like extremely hard, which I probably would agree with, right? What I
Mm.
find interesting with data modeling in general is like these, like relational modeling has been around for ages, like since
Since forever.
since like maybe 1969 or 1970, right? Depending on where you want to look.
Mm.
It's like
Mm.
dimensional modeling and analytics has been around since the 90s. Data Vault's been around since the 90s. Newer, maybe lesser known approaches have been, here and there in between those time spans, right? But what I'm
Mm.
noticing lately, and I'd love your take on this too, I noticed that data modeling feels like it's becoming something of, I don't know if it's a dying art as much as maybe people just aren't aware of it as much or something. But the newer crop of analytics and data engineers, for example, that I meet, I mean, and
Mm.
software engineers, that's typically, relational model is typically associated with application databases. That's just how it is. Relational databases. A lot of software engineers I know don't do relational modeling, haven't heard of it. Um,
Mm.
and same with analytics. People haven't heard of relationals modeling. Haven't heard of dimensional modeling even, right? So I think I don't know. Have you seen that too? I'm just making sure I'm not being gaslighted by my own bias. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that's an interesting topic. You can see you have many IT roles like data engineering and I think before when you had that one company Oracle database or SQL Server, you had database experts, yeah, and now people have to be more. I don't want to say general, but you need to know more things. Yeah,
Yeah.
like as you said, because you know SQL, that's not enough. Yeah, but good start definitely for people who starting in the industry. So if you have nowadays data engineers, that means they can be great on data lake, but maybe are not really don't have the expertise on the database and the data modeling, and it can be the other way around as well, right? So you have that one role and you can fit so many things into it. So people with you can meet people with very different skill set, and that's I guess also part of the art to make sure it matches on the project, and
Mm.
you have the spectrum of skills you need there. And yeah, I think if depending on the process, but if you have, as you mentioned, people who never heard about data modeling, there should be always somebody who knows it.
Yeah.
I think maybe not everybody needs to be 100% familiar, but there should be always someone covering this part of the skill set, I think. Yeah.
For sure. I think it comes back to that mentor piece that you had mentioned earlier too. If you could find somebody who, can help you see the blind spots, especially that you may have that you're not even aware of, like that's a huge thing. Because I don't think anyone, when I talk to people about things like data modeling, for example, I don't think anyone's consciously saying, "Oh, I don't need to do that," nor do I want to learn about that. I think if people were aware of it, they would certainly put the time into learning it. But I think right now it's almost an education thing, or a marketing, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's just, but it feels like a lot of this stuff isn't, it just isn't being exposed to the new crop of practitioners out there. Which, I'm very curious about the consequences of this as well,
Yeah.
right? So.
Yeah, I think we talk about automation and about skill set and modeling, and I think it always goes back to the value for stakeholders. And the question is, if I don't do this, is it going to be more expensive? The maintenance maybe. So okay. If I don't do data modeling, maybe I can do things faster, just copy paste data, do a quick and dirty solution, but then maintenance can be costly. Yeah, so I think that's something to always think about before. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But if you don't know about it, then it's it's like, it'll be interesting. I mean, in that one book I had referenced earlier, the 50 years of relational databases, I think, the author, takes, I think, a very extreme viewpoint that anything that's not the relational model is basically complete garbage, and that,
that's strong. That's strong. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, Chris Date worked alongside Ted Codd to come up with the relational model. So if you, and there's some things too where it's like, it's not just an art form, or it's not just a religion. It's based on science, i.e. it's like, basically set theory and so forth, right? But I mean, but the arguments were interesting too, because the author was basically saying that, you wouldn't build a bridge without, the principles of physics and materials and stuff, and kind of going along these lines. But I'm like, I don't know. I mean, on one hand, I get it. On the other hand, I've yet to see a company that, because they didn't use a relational model, they like completely collapse as a company. I think a lot of companies seem to do okay, in absence of that. So it's maybe a proof by contradiction, but I thought that was an interesting take on things. So
I think it's about maybe oblivion.
Oh boy!
Just a small joke in the end. But, I think what I like about I think data modeling and everything else, right, was invented for some purpose. So if you start maybe in some company and they don't do it, maybe question is, would it have some purpose here? Is there some added value? Because I think for me, data modeling enables reusability. Because if you do some data integration without it, okay, maybe it's great for one department, but what about another 20 which would like to reuse the data? Is it sustainable, or will you just create 10 copies of the same data and for each different use case? What do you think?
I'm seeing all the above, like 10 copies of the same data for sure. I mean, I see this a lot with with one big table. Which seems to be the trend, at least in the States, where you just throw all your, especially for analytics I'm talking about, you probably wouldn't want to do that for a transactional database. That would be pretty reckless, but I'm not going to stop you. But for analytics especially, it that does happen. And the argument for one big table is that, because there's, very few joins, if any joins, the query performance is faster. It means potentially your cloud data warehouse costs are lower because it's not having to use as much compute. So that's the argument in favor of it. The argument against it is you have a ton of redundancy, a ton of duplication. Referential integrity between tables is extremely suspect, because how do you know if even for the same field in two different tables, at least they have the same name? Is it the same thing? I don't know, but
Yeah.
You're an analyst, go figure it out. So that's kind of what I see is it the convenience of cheap joins and compute is at the expense of the fidelity of the business definitions, and the accuracy of the data, perhaps. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, you get
Yeah.
fast joins, or fast queries, I guess, but your queries might be wrong, but whatever. So,
Yeah. Also, it depends if you want to just make some quick one-time analysis or long-lasting
yeah,
solution. Or if you just make quick copy of the data, then it kind of loses the magic that you don't build company knowledge. Yeah, I
yeah,
think then question is who understands the data in 5-10 years, who will know what it actually means. Yeah, because also that's what data model helps you to really
right,
understand. You can create documentation around it, describe attributes for users, so they actually know what they are working with. And
yep,
yes.
that's awesome. Well, cool. I know we're coming up on time. Great conversation with you, man. I like talking to you. I think we first met when we were in Switzerland, actually, for the Skiers and Data event. So that's a
Yeah,
lot of
that
fun.
that was yeah, that was really nice conference. Yeah, lots
Yeah,
of new interesting topics there. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, hopefully there's another one. So
Yeah, I'm hoping there will be something in Prague. Yeah.
do you have skiing there?
Uh, not same as in Switzerland, but people usually come here for beer. Yeah, so
Mm.
that's what we are getting famous for: good technicians and beer.
Well, yeah. One of my friends, he posted that he was just in Prague. I think you're tagged in that post. You should go say hi to him if you get a chance. Really cool person. But yeah, the beer.
Mhm.
It was just a mug of beer. Was all it was. And saying I'm in Prague, and I'm like, you could be in Prague, or you could be at your local bar doing the same thing. But I trust that you're in Prague because I think they're known for the beer. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Well, cool. For people who want to learn more about you, how can they find you?
Well, definitely on LinkedIn, George Park. You can find me there, or I have also a personal website, better call george.eu, so you can also reach out to me there. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Thanks for the great conversation, and I hope you have a great evening. So,
Yeah. Thank you, and have a nice day.
all right. Thank you.
Bye.